In Jerusalem, the city is bustling for the season of the Passover. And here, a story begins to unfold, one that will truly mark the course of all history.
So after they've shared a final meal, Jesus leads his disciples out of the city. They cross the Kidron Valley in the dark and make their way to a garden on the Mount of Olives. It's late now, and under the moonlight, he moves a little ways off from them to pray.
But that quiet, it doesn't last long. Soon you can see the flickering light of lanterns and torches approaching through the trees. It's Judas, one of his own 12 disciples. And he's not alone. He's brought a large crowd with him, temple guards, and even a cohort of Roman soldiers, all armed, sent by the chief priests and elders.
As they get closer, Jesus just steps forward, right into the light. And when he identifies himself, just says, "I am," something incredible happens. The entire group, these armed soldiers and guards, they actually recoil. They fall right to the ground. And yet, he offers no resistance at all. He just allows them to bind him and lead him away into the night.
And so begins a long night. Through the last hours of darkness and then right into the first light of dawn, a whole series of hearings gets underway. It's a rushed affair, moving Jesus quickly from one authority to the next.
First, they take him to Annas, a very influential figure, the head of the high priestly family. From there, it's on to Caiaphas, the current high priest, for a sort of informal inquiry in the middle of the night. Then, as dawn breaks, the full council, the Sanhedrin, which is the Supreme Court, they all convene. And after that, he's marched over to the Roman authorities, first to the governor, Pontius Pilate, then for a short time to Herod Antipas, and then finally all the way back to Pilate's court for a final hearing.
You see, the accusation against him actually changes depending on who he's in front of. When he's before the Jewish council, the charge is blasphemy, but that's a religious charge. And when they bring him before the Roman governor, who's the only one with the power to order an execution, well, the accusation becomes treason. They claim he's telling people not to pay taxes to Caesar, and that he's claiming to be a king.
So Pilate questions Jesus himself, and then he walks out to the waiting crowd and says, "I find no fault in this man." He even sends him over to Herod, but Herod doesn't find any reason to condemn him either. So when Jesus is brought back to Pilate, the governor says it again, declares him innocent a second time.
Pilate tries one last thing to get him released. He uses a Passover tradition where one prisoner is set free. He gives the crowd a choice. Who do you want, Jesus or this other man, Barabbas, who's a known rebel and a murderer? But the chief priests stir up the crowd, and they start shouting for Barabbas. They want Barabbas.
So Pilate, he symbolically washes his hands of the whole thing and hands Jesus over to his soldiers. What follows is brutal. He's scourged, a flogging that leaves terrible, deep wounds. They mock him, putting a purple robe on him and a crown made of thorns. And then he's condemned to die by crucifixion.
The soldiers lead him away, out of the city. But he's so weakened from everything that's happened, he can't even carry the heavy crossbeam. So they grab a man from the crowd, a man named Simon of Cyrene, and force him to carry it the rest of the way, on the path to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull.
It's about 9 in the morning. His clothes are stripped off, and he is stretched out and nailed to the cross. They crucify him there, between two common thieves. And above his head, Pilate has a sign put up. It states the official charge, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. And it's written in 3 different languages, in Hebrew for the local people, in Latin, the official language of the Roman Empire, and in Greek, which was the common language everyone understood. For hours, an unusual darkness covers the land. Then, at about 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cries out with a loud voice. He bows his head, and he dies.
Now, the Sabbath is about to begin at sunset, so the soldiers need to hasten the deaths. They go and break the legs of the 2 men who were crucified with him. But when they get to Jesus, they can see he's already dead. Still, just to be certain, one of the soldiers takes a spear and pierces his side.
As evening comes on, a respected member of the council, a man named Joseph of Arimathea, does something very brave. He goes directly to Pilate and asks for Jesus' body. And surprisingly, permission is granted. So Joseph takes the body down from the cross, wraps it carefully in clean linen, and lays it in his own new tomb, one that had been carved right out of the rock. Because the Sabbath is starting any minute, there's no time for the usual burial preparations, so they just seal the tomb by rolling a huge, heavy stone across the entrance. And then, at the request of the chief priests, who are worried, Pilate orders a detachment of Roman soldiers to stand guard at the site. So the Sabbath passes in quiet, Then, at dawn on the very next day, the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and some of the other women who had followed Jesus make their way to the tomb. They're bringing spices with them to properly anoint the body. But when they get there, they're met with a shocking sight. The huge stone has been rolled away. The Roman guards are nowhere to be found. And when they look inside, the tomb is empty. It's there that an angelic messenger gives them a message that is going to change absolutely everything. The women run to tell the disciples what they've seen. And that very same day, and then over the next several weeks, his followers begin to report seeing him alive. They see him in a locked room, on a road, by the shore of a lake. These aren't just one-off things. It happens on multiple occasions, sometimes to individuals and sometimes to large groups of people all at once. Completely convinced that he has conquered death, his followers are just transformed. They go from hiding in fear to preaching publicly right in the streets of Jerusalem. They start proclaiming that this Jesus, the author of life, the one the authorities had killed, well, that God had raised him from the dead. And this new message, it spreads like wildfire. Pretty soon his followers are refusing to worship the Roman emperor. They're saying their allegiance is to another king, another lord. And because of that, they're quickly seen as a threat to the empire. Persecution starts. At first it's sporadic, here and there, but eventually it becomes systematic, empire-wide, under emperors like Decius and Diocletian. And yet somehow, against all odds, the movement just keeps on growing.
So you see, what started with just a few events over a handful of days in Jerusalem, it didn't end in that rock-hewn tomb. The message of a resurrection spread out from that one small province all the way across the Roman Empire, and eventually out into the entire world, leaving a mark on history that you can still see to this very day.